All right, today's quick camp marketing tip: why your Google business profile might be costing you bookings. Uh, if you're a camp that's been around for a while, I'm willing to bet you have a Google business profile. But some of you listening to this might not be sure because it's probably not something you touch very often. But here's the interesting thing: these days, your Google business profile is actually just as important as your website is when it comes to online visibility. When people are searching for a retreat center near me or a Christian camp near me, I hope you would like to be among the top camps that show up when they're doing those kind of searches, because that's a great way to get in front of new people. But the reality is, when someone is doing that kind of search, Google realizes that people are looking for somewhere that is local to them. And so, whether you realize it or not, the way that searches show up when Google believes there's a local intent, or that someone is looking for a organization that is in the same location or near the same location as the person searching, the search engine actually looks different. And I'm actually going to show you an example here just to make sure I'm being clear. Um, so I've got my browser set here to be set for Rockland, Texas. That was just kind of a random town I picked. But when I did
Seriously,
this, it is. It's a
you just
random town.
randomly picked it. That just okay. I believe you. I believe you. Keep going.
And so, yeah, for some reason, Rockland popped into my mind. So I did this test. And what we see here right on the screen is what Google calls the local map pack, which this is the list of retreat centers or camps that are closest to me when I'm doing this search from Rockland, Texas. And what we're seeing here is not a list of websites. The list of websites is actually below that. What we're seeing here is a list of Google business profiles. And these Google business profiles are the ones that, number one, Google believes are relevant to the searcher and that are closest to the searcher and that have the highest reputation. And so, one thing you'll notice here, Lake Tomahawk Christian is the first one on the list. They have got 98 reviews on Google. And then the Cove Christian Retreat here, they're another retreat center, they've got 4 reviews, but they've got a 5-star rating. And then you see Holy Family Retreat Center here, they've got 52 reviews and a 5-star rating, but they're 60 miles away in Beaumont, Texas. I can tell you for certain that there are other camps or retreat centers that are actually closer than Holy Family Retreat Center. But one of the reasons that Google is choosing to show them in the third spot instead of one of those other closer camps is because of the number of good reviews that they have. So, one other thing I want to point out to you here is or I guess what I want to say is that's why your Google business profile is so important, because especially if I'm on a mobile device, most of my screen is taken up by this local map pack. It's
Yeah.
only after that that I start to see some of the websites that are on the list. Um, and so, if you want to be highly visible when people are doing these searches, you need to have a Google business profile, but you also need to make sure that your Google business profile is configured correctly. So, just to touch on some of those important things, you need to make sure the information about your business is accurate. That's your business name, your address, your phone number, your website. Now, a lot of times camps aren't just picking up and changing addresses, but it's not unusual for a camp to have a P.O. box for mailing and then a physical address. You want your physical address to be what's shown because that's where people are going to drive to. You need to have an accurate phone number there. You need to have your website address. And I want to talk about an example here. There's a camp that I'm working with here in my hometown in Pennsylvania. And when I was just kind of getting to know them and starting to audit them, I just did some test searches. I'm in Lancaster, PA. I just did a search for Christian Retreat Center near me. They happen to be a retreat center, and their camp wasn't showing up. And then I thought, well, I'm about an hour away from them. So then I did a search for the area that they're in, and they didn't show up in that search either, which was a little curious because you should at least show up in your hometown. And what I learned when I did that search is their Google business profile was set to be a children's camp, and it did not have retreat center as a secondary category. And in their
Mm.
business name, they're referred to as a camp. Now, all of us in the camp world know that I think 3CA puts out a stat, something like 86% of camps also offer retreats. So
Hmm.
we know that a camp might be viable as a retreat center, but Google is using the information that it has, which is the business name and the primary category that's assigned. And in this case, they didn't show up. The good news, the fix was simple: add retreat center as a category. make it the primary because in their case, that is their primary line of business. And now they can show up in searches in their hometown and outside of their hometown when people are searching. So their
Carl,
example is,
the business listing is free. I mean, it's a free way to advertise.
yeah, that's correct. It
I
is
mean, it's,
free. And I think that's also why many of our listeners probably know they have a Google business profile, but also probably don't spend a lot of time on it because the thought is it's free. I set it up. That's all I really need to do, right? But the fact
yeah,
is, making sure your information is correct, adding pictures of your property, getting frequent reviews and responding to those reviews is really important. And these days, you can even do things like post content. So if you are running a seasonal
yeah,
promotion, if you have a community event that's coming up, or if you just have things going on at your camp that you'd like more people to know about, you can create posts that will then show up online when someone does a brand search, all of which is really good for visibility. Just one more important thing I want to mention before we wrap this tip up is the way you describe your camp on your Google business profile influences how Google decides to show your profile and your website in Google searches. Just to give you an example, one of the camps we work with does school field trips. They weren't showing up when someone was looking for places to do a school field trip. We updated the description in their business profile to include the phrase school field trips, and they started showing up in Google searches. And it's because Google says, hey, I'm seeing in your profile that you do field trips, so now I'm going to show you to users even though you're a camp. Okay? So those are just some quick examples. Could talk about this all day. Here's what I want to leave you with. Your Google business profile is nearly as important as your website. Small updates to your Google business profile can directly impact your visibility, how many inquiries are coming in, and therefore how many bookings you're getting. So if it's been a while since you touched your Google business profile, check it out. Make sure, look at what your average review rating is. Look at how many reviews you have versus the other camps that show up when you're doing online searches, and respond to reviews, post content, keep your pictures up to date. Definitely, your Google business profile is not a set it and forget it thing. It's an active tool that you can use to grow your bookings.